I'm Ayo Mairo-Ese.
And I'm Kayode Baker.
And it's time for Freshly Pressed 981. This is when we go in detail of the national news headlines for today. And joining us to analyze the stories, we have Funmi Odude. Good morning, Funmi.
Good morning.
Fumi's at Funmi Odude on Twitter. And we have the pleasure of the company of Rotus this morning.
Good morning.
Rotus.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rotus. Good
Yes,
morning,
indeed.
Funmi.
Yes, indeed.
Lagos, you know what to do. To be part of the conversation, send your messages to WhatsApp at 0809-444-0981. Also on Twitter, use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 and your messages come to Smooth981FM.
All right, we'll go straight to our first story. Big one here. It's been making headlines from the time it was announced that the president was going to implement the Ruga settlement in different states across Nigeria. However, following reactions, Punch has this headline: reactions as Buhari bows to pressure, suspends Ruga. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari succumbed to pressure yesterday by suspending the controversial Ruga settlement scheme designed to settle the Fulani and their cattle on acquired land across states in the Federation. Just to clarify that a little, Punch has it that to settle the Fulani and their cattle. However, I know over the week when the president's spokesman, Gava Shehu, came to say that it wasn't just for cattle herders, everyone who had some, in terms of who was in any form of cattle rearing, animals, who needed land, was also going to be for them. So just to clarify that. But Rotus, let's talk about this from an economic perspective and agricultural perspective.
Right. Okay, so essentially what was said is that the Ruga plan clashes with the National Livestock Transformation Plan.
Yes.
I believe it was Mr. Umahi Mr. Dave Umahi that was talking about, the governor of Ebonyi State.
Yes.
Right. So the Livestock Transformation Plan had already made provisions for livestock to be placed in certain states, and he made the case that it's voluntary. So it's the states that want to participate in this that will be able to do so. And so the fact that the Ruga plan kind of forces this on the states, that didn't jive, and so that's the reason, part of the reason why they decided to walk this back. But the thing is, from an economic perspective, apologies, but I kind of defended the government's choice on the marketplace. You guys should listen to the marketplace on Mondays, 5:15 p.m. just to plug another Smooth FM show. But the reason why I did that was because I said it initially, and this was before I found out some information that I'll share with everybody as well.
Okay.
It was about protecting assets. There's a stat that was released that said that in Lagos alone, about 6,000 to 7,000 cattle are slaughtered every day. The cost of a full-grown cow is about 200,000 naira. So that's a lot. I mean, if you're walking around with a cow, you're walking around with 200,000 naira. It's a valuable asset, right? It's like gold. So the whole essence of this was supposed to be about protection of assets and to reduce the violent skirmishes that have been going on.
Yes.
And also the government said that they're going to be providing, there were going to be schools attached to this. There was going to be power initiatives. There were going to be all sorts of benefits attached, right? So the thing though is that, and this is what I found out, without power, these ranches pretty much cannot work. I tweeted a blog post from a Dr. Aliyu Tilde. He wrote a blog post in 2010 where he was talking about his father handing cattle over to him and how he was trying to raise them and do what the government is doing now, set up his own personal ranch. He also set up a yogurt factory that could take milk from these cows and produce yogurt. Now, the key thing here is that there was he was feeding them something called CSC, which I think is cotton seed cake, which was supposed to allow the cattle to get very large and very big and supposed to produce a lot of meat and milk. Now, in 2002, cotton seed cake was going for 13,000 naira per ton. In 2008, it almost quadrupled to 50,000 naira per ton. It no longer made any economic sense for him to be able to feed his cattle the cotton seed cake because it was too expensive. The reason why the price almost quadrupled was because textile mills in Nigeria closed shop. The reason why they closed shop was because there was no power for them to operate. So if the textile mills closed down, they couldn't produce the cotton, which couldn't feed the cows. And so essentially only a few people were able to afford it. Now he couldn't feed them, and he's pretty much had to close shop. So the point of that is that until the power sector, until we get, and I know there's another story where Buhari is lamenting power, until power is actually to a stage where it's not erratic, this plan, I don't even know how this plan is going to work, because and then there's also the issue of weather. You know, the blog post, he talked about the diseases that the cows get, how rainy season they get really cold, the dry season. So the thing is that if you are state, and they've mentioned 12 states that are already complying with Ruga already.
Well, they said indicated interest.
Indicated interest, thank you. And they're in a number of the geopolitical zones. So the thing is, from an economic standpoint, the government was going to face challenges with this anyway, before the political backlash or the tribal insinuations and so on and so forth. It was going to be a massive challenge. So they probably they dodged the bullets, so, you know, by them closing this down, because
that's the thing now. People have said they haven't closed down, they've suspended
it. Excuse me.
The call has been, don't suspend it, just an outright cancellation.
Right.
Because what they're saying is suspension is just to bow to the pressure that has come in the wake of the announcement.
Right.
And just to, you know, fend that off. And of course, you know how it is when it quietens down a bit, people that they then slide it in.
Right,
and then they're like, okay, we resumed.
Yeah, but
so
I mean,
would you be recommending an outright cancellation?
Yeah, I would, because, you know, the backlash is heavy. I think that's what they're about to. But then still, even if they had gone forward with it, ranching is incredibly expensive. Also, there's an issue of pollution. The breeds of some of the breeds of cattle that we have, some of them eat plastics that are found that people litter around the place. They end up thinking that they're full, they die of hunger and starvation. The cows walk around too much, they're too late, they thin out. So again, just the solution of using ranching, though, is just not going to fix it until power is sorted out. And then another thing, how many governments around the world actually do this ranching? Ranching is primarily a private enterprise. It's private. So this is something to where you should actually let this be handled by the private sector, you know. And then again, there's all sorts of issues with the agricultural value chain that probably won't let this work. But good news that they've suspended it.
Thank you very much for that very, very insightful comment, reaction to that. Let's move on to the next story, Rotus. You're next, but I want to move to Funmi because you're
certainly
getting proud. I'll come to you for the next story. Senator apologizes for assault as protest rocks National Assembly. Guardian has this report again, another trending story with regards to Senator Elisha Abo. Someone accused us yesterday of not saying his name. We actually did at the very beginning. Everyone knows the name of the senator. Senator Elisha Abo was caught on camera physically assaulting a woman at an adult sex toy shop in Abuja. He's now. Initially, he had said he was going to give a robust response later on. I listened to an interview. I don't know if you listened to the audio interview that he did with a news station, and was talking about the fact that it was such a long time ago. His sister was hurt, and so he was going to defend his sister. He said a lot of things, but didn't address the issue. But finally, following protests online and in person at the National Assembly, he's now apologized in tears to Nigerians. What do you have to say about this?
So. One quick thing before we even go into the story is the fact that this ties a bit to believing victims. I mean, if the video didn't come out, we usually have these reactions of she must have provoked him. No, it didn't even happen. No, he just tapped her a bit. All this kind of thing. So yeah, it's glad that we have a video come out, and it's also gladdening that our generation seems to be holding people accountable now. It is so refreshing, extremely refreshing, because not apparently, we know that nothing would have been done if the kind of outcry that came out did not. And so yes, we're finally getting to use the power behind social media in the way that we should. So this story, I'll touch quickly on three things. Number one, the gender issue relating to it. The not too young to run part of it. I mean, when I read in the story that is our youngest serving senator.
41
years old.
Wow. Not too young to run. So and then the third part of it is how we're quick to settle issues relating to assault, especially when it's a person in a position of power involved. And while this is not a situation of rape or sexual assault, but it's part of the trend that we see. So we're quick to settle and not demand prosecutions. I mean, people can quickly pay their way out of it. So I'm glad for the protest. I see many reactions saying that, well, the man has apologized, we should let it go now. But that is just...
Some people say, do you know what it takes a grown man A man in power to apologize.
That's the more reason why he should be held more accountable. Two things. Number one, this is a man that is going to create our laws. And so if we're going to expect laws that protect the vulnerable in the society, the women, the children, the persons living with disabilities, all manner of vulnerable groups in the society. And it is a man with this kind of mindset already. What kind of laws do we expect to get?
Yes.
Which is why he should even be held more accountable. And let's stop this attitude of, so the man has begged, somebody has begged, so we shouldn't prosecute.
So you recommend a probe and also prosecution?
Yes, I do. Well, the Senate has said that the Senate has constituted, not even said this, they've set up a 7-member ad hoc committee already to investigate it, and they're giving the committee 2 weeks to report. But beyond the Senate cannot criminally prosecute him. The police, we expect to hear something from the police. I mean, this is a video. This is not somebody said. This is clear.
It's audio.
Exactly. And then there's something about also the training of the policemen. I know part of the backlash was in respect of the policeman that was behind him. Now, it is the lower rank, the rank and file, that act as security personnel to all our government. Yes. And one thing I find is that I'm not sure they even know what the law says. I mean, the senior police officers, yes, they might know, but junior police officers, their mindset is just obey your oga. And if your oga at that time happens to be a senator or any other person in authority,
at the time he was senator-elect, he hadn't even been sworn in.
He's still here. Yes, can you imagine? So it's sad, because at least this was a policeman that watched. We've had situations where the person that they're protecting or guarding gives the order, and they're actually the ones themselves that carry out the act. Like, so this man is talking to me like this, help me slap him, So it also ties a bit to the training of our police officers. The kind of mentality they have is obey yoga, and not they actually know what is wrong or right. And your duty is not to protect the person that you're guarding against criminal acts. It's a whole societal issue.
Real quick, just really quick to add something here. The Business Day had an article where they asked the question, why don't people in Nigeria step down or resign? In any other clime, right, this senator would have recused himself from his duties while the investigation was going on. And as I already pointed out, this man, the video is out there, right? The audio is also out there, right? And in fact, we're talking about this on Tech Friday tomorrow. The need for CCTV and audio to capture these things.
We know you love cameras,
right? He could have, right? Yeah, you know that. So he could have changed the story. Look at how he lied when his initial interview he talked about. He lied. He said his sister was assaulted, so on and so forth. If there was no audio, he could have lied his way out of this, and that would have been the end of it. But we do not step down and resign. Also, what is the committee investigating for 2 weeks? See,
that's usually the response of the Senate, and I think it's doing many Nigerians doing a head in, because you have a case which is very obvious. You set up a committee to investigate. It's good to investigate because you don't want to,
you want to grant fair hearing,
fair hearing and everything. But the first reaction, like you're saying, Rotus, in this kind of situation where the evidence is almost beyond,
it's clear.
You can't argue against it.
And this is something I've talked about. We don't seem to respect or understand the gravity of productivity in Nigeria. 2 weeks is enough time for them to be doing other productive things that they should be addressing, right? Instead, we could solve this thing in 2 hours or 2 days at the max. But so there's another productivity issue where there's a lot of waste in Nigeria. Time is wasted. And so, but anyway, so we'll see what they bring.
But another question, maybe I'll pose this to Nigerians. An apology, are you satisfied with that, or would you like to see the rule of law take its course to the very end with regards to Senator Elisha Abbo? Let's take a few comments before we go on to our next stories.
Taj here says, truth is, whatever solution the government comes up with to tackle this herdsmen issue, Southerners will always cry foul. This should have been better understood and tweaked.
All right, thanks, Taj, for your message. We have Ada here. Ada, your message is quite long. Please summarize so we can read it. Ozed from Ikeja says on the senator, his constituents should also begin the process of recalling him in addition to all the others. I have another question. How many people know what the procedure for recalling a senator is for bad behavior or for not representing you as, and what you voted him there for? These are questions that we need to ask with regards to the office of the citizen in Nigeria. Rotus, let me come back to you for this one. Manufacturing Association of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, I remember just as we were rounding off the show yesterday, the news broke that the president had signed this trade agreement. I'd love for you, Rotus, to take us through what is it about, what do we hope to gain, or what do we stand to gain as a nation?
Right.
And
yeah, I was also pretty surprised as well because the Association of Nigeria was against it, because essentially they were saying that local manufacturers here in Nigeria were going to be suffering as a result of this particular agreement. So the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is about trade. It's about increasing intra-African trade. So what they want to do is remove tariffs and duties and so on goods that are produced and traded within Africa. So for example, if I make shoes and I live in Lagos and I'm a local manufacturer, if Kayode is from Germany and Kayode wants to import, bring his shoes into Nigeria, they would apply a tax onto Kayode's imported shoes that are coming here to make them more expensive and dissuade yourself and Funmi, who both like shoes, from buying the shoes. So they essentially want to protect me, the local manufacturer of the shoes, so that you buy mine instead of buying Kayode's that are coming from overseas. So the trade agreements amongst the countries within Africa is supposed to reduce, in fact, eliminate those duties and tariffs and allow trade to happen freely between African countries. If you look at exports from Africa or rather intra-African trade as a percentage of exports going out of Africa, it's about 17%. It used to be 10. It's very small. I think in Europe it's 69%. In Asia it's 59%. North America is 31%. So what that means is a healthy portion of intra-trade taking place within Europe, right, is healthy, and it's making up a lot of their exports. So they want to promote it. The issues and what the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria had against this is that Nigeria has porous borders, right? We already know that rice is being smuggled in here from, I think it's Benin Republic. We know that, let's see now, a number of companies like Dangote Sugar, Okomo Oil have talked about smuggling of sugar and smuggling of crude palm oil affecting their sales because smuggling is coming through the border. So if you already have that issue now, even with tariffs and duties, what is going to happen when you remove the tariffs and duties and just say, yeah, trade freely? The fear is that other countries will now use Nigeria as a dumping ground because in sub-Saharan Africa, with our population of almost, well, take your pick, 180 million, 200 million, we're a large buying block. And so we could potentially, there's a big marketplace here. So their fear is for local manufacturers. So I believe that President Buhari has signed, they call it phase 1 of the agreement. They will now go into a second stage where they're going to make some specific negotiations that they claim is supposed to protect manufacturers in Nigeria and then go from there. But look, the thing is this. While you're afraid of goods being dumped here, well, you're also exporting as well. So if you think about it, if you are a manufacturer here or whatever it is you do or services, you can now hopefully sell to other African countries. So it should be a win-win. But the fear, of course, is about dumping products here, and that's what they're looking at. But surprising, he signed it. I'm like, wow. Right. So here we go.
Next story is on power, because I wanted to talk about you saying we're able to export, and I'm like, how much are we able to export?
Good question.
Manufacturing supported by the government in Nigeria.
Oh, boy.
Maybe we should fix it internally before we start signing agreements, but
the power, talk about the power issue is pretty bad. Nairametrics had a so are you going to read messages?
Yes, messages.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So Enyichukwu says, I think the slapping senator should be forgiven, but he must resign.
Okay.
Yep.
Yinko says, this happened last month in excuse me, in the UK, the Foreign Office Minister was suspended. He also still apologized. The senator should be suspended. All right, a lot of people.
Femi says recall of a senator is not possible. We tried it with Dino. How did it end by the constitution? It is not realizable. And let's just go on to YouTube very quickly so we're not ignoring our YouTube family. Oluwagbemileke says, President matters a lot. If this is not prosecuted, what's the point? Public shaming isn't the constitutional punishment for assault. What's the role of the judiciary? Good point.
Okay, so the next story comes back to you, Rotus, and this one here says Buhari. Okay, my government's performance in power supply not good enough, and well, he further states that There's so much back and forth. He's displeased with the discos.
Right.
But then again, where do we go from here?
Yeah, Kayode, what thoughts on Business Express when we talked about this? Yeah, let me drop this figure on for people that are listening. So Nairametrics has an article where the discos came out and said that in order to give Nigeria stable power supply, it's going to cost 36 trillion naira, not million or billion. Trillion. That's essentially about $100 billion.
What's
for
our
the
budget?
discos, for the distribution part, or the
to complete the overhaul of the entire process, right?
And our budget is what exactly?
Our budget is like 9 trillion, right? So that's like what, four times our budget. So that gives you an idea of the amount of money needed to fix the power issue. This is obviously there's really not much to analyze here. I mean, there's nothing much to talk about. It's really terrible. This shouldn't be coming from Buhari though. This should be coming from the minister that's in charge of.
We don't have one right now.
Okay, well that's true. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good point.
So
anyway,
the minister,
oh yeah, he is. So anyway, and it's interesting though. He received a delegation from the Oba of Benin. Omo, if I try and pronounce this, I'll be in trouble. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that they were able to go and meet him. First, I said the Oba who sought the president's intervention on the power supply situation in Edo State has described it as a pathetic situation. So it's nice that the Oba can just walk into Aso Rock and go and talk to the president about this. Meanwhile, the rest of us are here suffering. But look, the power situation, the meters, we need proper billing, right? A lot of people complain about estimated billing. How can I, be charged 70, 80,000 for using, I don't have lights and stuff like that. So the meters are not produced here. They need to be imported. The meters cost a lot. Everybody has to be metered so that that proper.
It can be balanced.
Right, so you can balance. Also, the tariffs have to go up. This is the one Nigerians don't like to hear, but we talk about it on a business show all the time. The tariffs are not cost reflective. So everybody has to pay more for power. But the quick chicken and egg situation is Nigerians will say, I don't get power, why should I pay more? And then the disco say, well, you have to pay more, so if you want to get power, and back and forth we go. So it's a serious situation. I'm wondering if when I have children or grandchildren, I can tell them that whether Nigeria will have stable power supply by that time. I don't know.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
It's massive. It's massive.
I'm still, crossing my fingers for my own time.
Yeah.
Let's send it to our children. Thank you.
Funmi, let's come to you with this next story from Premium Times. It says Buhari declines assent to 17 bills, and the story says he has rejected 17 bills passed by the 8th National Assembly, and he gave assent to 9 other bills passed by the last Senate. What are your thoughts about this?
Okay, so quickly, I went through the bills and I was hoping to see the Company and Allied Matters Act, but I'm a bit disappointed by that. And also, he has not said anything about the PIGB. So that is still hanging in the air. So I don't know. Those were the first 2 bills I tried to scan through. So we have, but some of the bills are also very exciting. Some of the ones that have been assented to, like the Police Trust Fund Act. I mean, anything that will try to give us a better police system. Then we have the Nigerian Natural Medicine Establishment Act, the FCT Management Board and Health Insurance, Suppression of Piracy and Other Maritime Defense Bill. A whole lot of bills. And then we have some additional universities now. So we have the Adeyemi Federal University of Education Establishment Bill. We also have the Federal University of Education Kano Bill, the Alvan Ikoko Federal University of Education Bill.
He didn't sign. Those are the ones he actually didn't.
No, those are the ones assented to.
Assented to.
Yes, those are the ones assented to. And it's interesting that all of them are universities of education. I mean, all the ones that the Federal University of Education Zaria Bill, and those are the universities. So there are a lot of bills here, and I towards the end of his first term, we saw the president a lot more active with respect to these bills and also giving reasons for the decline. The story doesn't mention it, but I'm hoping that, the trend he has started of, especially given the reasons why he's declined some, would...
Those schools were actually refused assent. I just wanted to clarify. He said he refused assent to Adeyemi Federal University of Education. So lots of the higher education, he refused assent to many of them, because I was wondering why a number of higher education were brought forward and he refused to sign any of them. Many of them he refused to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So unfortunately, how many universities do we have again? I know we still have the problem of managing the number.
We're still reeling over the number of public universities that we have, so it's good. But yeah, so a lot of important bills that I'm waiting to see his reaction on, especially the PIGB. I mean,
maybe the 9th Senate will see that with them.
Well, it's maybe
they're supposed to be friendly. It's his party that's in there now, right?
You'll be surprised.
I know.
Rotus.
Yeah, I know.
This
right?
next 4 years are about to get very interesting.
Very
We'll
surprised.
Okay, let's come to our final story real quick. This one comes back to you, Rotus, or rather for me. It says money laundering. Bank testifies against the NBA president Paul Usoro, and I mean it goes on and on. The FCC will call their first witness, and you know he's generally Mr. Usoro has been prosecuted by the Federal High Court in Lagos for alleged laundering of 1.4 billion belonging to the Akwa Ibom state.
Okay, yeah, so this is not a new case. There's been a lot of back and forth, but finally trial has started, and well, we'll wait to see where the trial leads. So far the FCC has called a banker, according to the story, who testified that he or she was the one that paid the money into the account of Paul Usoro. One major part of the story to touch quickly, part of the reason why there's been such a delay in starting trial was the governor of Akwa Ibom State had filed an application saying that his name was mentioned among the charges, but since he's covered by constitutional immunity, the charges should be suspended until the end of his tenure as his name is mentioned. But the court has held that, well, your name is mentioned, but you're not yet charged with the offense, so we can proceed with the man that has been charged with it. So we'll wait to see. It's too early in the case to say, and it's actually, you shouldn't even comment on pending, especially criminal proceedings. So we'll wait to see what comes of it.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, let's take some comments on WhatsApp before we go.
This one from George from Aja says, good morning, guys. The African trade agreement is a good one. Angola has oil, but South Africa buys its crude from Saudi Arabia. Africans should do business together. It's a good one for Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel from Ikeja says, we would forgive the senator on one condition. He would come and walk the long road of Ikorodu, and everybody would come out and be shouting, shame, 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 just like, oh, wow. Really?
So I really say something. Rotus asked then why in more developed climes people are quick to step down. Well, that's because they're held more accountable. So for those of you that are saying that we should forgive him, we'll never get to the point where they willingly
if we don't hold people accountable,
right?
Until it's because they know the effect. They know that any investigation carried out there will be taken to its logical conclusion, and something will be done.
Exactly.
All right.
This one from EJ from Arepo says, good morning. The only punishment that will really pain the slapping, wow, is a recall. Okay, this is a lot. Yeah, let's
recall him. That's basically the
recall.
gist of the message.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Now, a number of people commented on the Ruga settlement. We'll be looking at this in detail for Lagos Talks 91 today, so we didn't take a lot of comments on that. We'll save your comments for them, so please stay tuned. 9 a.m. We'll talk about this in more detail and have your comments and reactions to this. And some people have said, should it be cancelled? Should we still suspend it? And so on. We'll look at this later on. But thank you so much to our analysts today. Funmi Odude, always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Ayo.
Fumi's at Funmi Odude, and Rotus, thank you.
You have to spell out Twitter handle.
I will.
Yes.
Rotan quote.
Yes.
ROTANKWOT.
ROTA.
was so careful.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you did.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, no problem. I'm here. Definitely.
And thank you for listening to us this morning, and very much in particular for being a part of the conversation by sending in your comments. Join us again tomorrow morning, 7:30. But don't go anywhere. The show continues.
Yes, with Grapevine 981. Stay close.
Nice.
No, but any state can decide to do it as business. Thank you.
What the Senate said they wanted to investigate.
Yeah.
Two things are happening. One, the senator hadn't admitted he was in the video. But more importantly, in the video, his face is obscured by face.
Yeah, by stuff,
So it is debatable whether it's actually him. That's why they said they wanted to investigate.
Okay.
His apology came after they had made the announcement. So they were not exactly wrong when he said they needed to investigate.
Rotus point
For
was
2 weeks.
2
Was
weeks.
it 2 weeks?
That's been why 2 weeks. That's the thing. And then even
2 weeks.
Even after the
interview.
admission, they need to investigate for fair hearing
Yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
Rotus point was how many?
Even the channel's interview interview, they asked him, was that you on the
Yes,
He said,
he
yes,
said
it was
yes,
me.
it was
And
me.
then that's why I lied
No,
about his
he's
sister.
never denied
That it was him.
It was beyond, he couldn't. Nobody would
Yes.
advise him to deny it.
Exactly.
It would have been too, it would have been too horrible. He never did. What he was saying though was that the reason why he went to beat somebody, even though he had a policeman there who could have arrested if his claims were true, that his sister was beaten to a pulp, an ambulance was outside to resuscitate her.
You know why I say this?
Terrible thing.
I'm a lawyer. You can say anything outside. But it's what you say under oath that the court will.
Yeah, but the Senate
So
is
he
not
could
in
admit
court.
to newspapers that I didn't slap anyone. I slapped her or I assaulted her. He deposes to an affidavit on me and says I didn't assault her.
But the Senate is not in
Senate,
court.
but Senate didn't even wait for a court.
I'm looking at when it gets to court.
Yeah,
Anybody can
that's
say anything. Anybody can say anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
If he gets to court next, I say it's not.
So wait, if you ask the witnesses that were there,
It'll
whether
be,
that was
it'll
him.
be easy to prove it.
I mean, it's so easy
the
to prove.
police,
Whether
number
it's not
one.
his, yeah,
There's
exactly.
a third girl, the sales girl.
Yes,
If
who
he
is
bought
not
stuff,
of him.
there's receipt.
Right. I mean,
And
there's no...
for that time stamp and everything. So you
find
you
someone.
may not
Case.
easier It's
But
our
you,
police.
sorry, but you, I know you lawyers. You
No,
lawyers.
You can pull it
Ayo,
back
let me
and
tell you
forth.
the problem. The problem is the fact that it is the, I don't want to use the dullest minds, but it is the, even if the brightest minds get into the prosecutorial system,
Yeah.
when you finish from uni is different from what you learn on the job is actually the
The
thing.
thing itself.
So we have, compared to the private legal practice, that have access to all these SANs and all these people that have sharp minds. You're dealing with police prosecutors that are underpaid, probably not been trained, probably have not attended any seminars since they finished law school and all of that. I mean, the imbalance.
Yeah. That's why many of the cases are through now.
The imbalance.
Many of the cases are through
That's
now.
the problem. It's our
Many of the
prosecution that
cases.
is the problem. And you cannot, like you said, you can't expect the court to say, "Oh, I watched the video."
Yes,
Therefore,
yes, it's
it is
true.
the evidence that you put before.
There was
them.
one, which case was it recently that the judge said that it is obvious